Hi, everybody, and thank you so much for joining today's session. My name is Edward, and I will be your host today. For those who have joined us for the first time, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce Walkingtree. Walkingtree basically is a technology company, and at our core, we focus on designing and building cross-platform web and mobile applications. We also perform system integrations, and we enable our clients to achieve seamless digital transformation. Our specializations basically include data integration, analytics. We also help our clients migrate from legacy to modern systems, and we also help with cloud migration. AWS is something we're looking into right now, we're focusing on rather, and also UX design. We're also providing our customers with microservices, DevOps solutions, and cloud solutions. We have a staff augmentation service, which basically means that we provide our clients with services which empower their staff with on-demand skills and resources. And basically, this helps them to meet their business objectives. And lastly, we help implement solutions like objective performance assessment. And we're also key partners for implementing Digit, which is basically an open source platform for urban governance. Well, that's about Walkingtree Technologies. Now I'd like to introduce to you our speaker. His name is Partha Reddy, and he is the user experience lead here at Walkingtree with 4 years of experience. Now, before I can hand over the session to Partha, just a quick information. If you can just move your mouse, you'll see the mute and the start video button right there. After participants, you will notice a Q&A box. So while the session's going on, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A box to put in your questions. So we'll have one place to focus on as opposed to putting it on chat. Put your questions down in the Q&A section. It'll help us to direct our attention there. So after the session's over, we will allot a certain time for Partha to answer all your questions, and we can refer to the Q&A box much more easier. All right, great. Thank you for your patience. Now I will hand over the session to Partha. Partha, you have our attention.
Hey, thank you, Edward. Yeah, we'll take it on from here. So hi guys, my name is Partha Sarathi. I'm UX lead in Walkingtree Technologies. And today our session is regarding user experience trends in BFSI. So we'll start the session. Please let me share my screen.
Yes, you can share your screen now.
So today's section is all about BFSI UX trends. So we'll start quickly. As our friend Edward gave us an introduction about Walkingtree, this is the slide. So these are all the activities that we perform. And this is about the presenter, it's me. So I have a good amount of experience in BFSI and other multi-domain platforms, working end-to-end projects on user experience design. So today we are going to discuss about user experience design in BFSI industries in 2021. So we see that banking financial services are growing a lot of importance due to a recent pandemic as well. And a lot of people are going online and a lot of businesses are going online. So when we talk about BFSI, it's any kind of company which relates to financial transactions or banking and non-banking transactions, insurance, and any kind of non-monetary transactions which are indirectly related to monetary transactions are all coming into banking and financial service sector. So there is a lot of transactions going on in the recent time on online platforms with respect to BFSI. So this is majorly impacted due to our recent pandemic. It can be COVID, or it can be introduction of a lot of online platforms which enabled us to move to those online transactions. So today we are going to see how these online platforms are going to affect or impact our behavior in BFSI industry, and how next generation platforms are going to be affected with this behavior in the society. So this is the introduction of the BFSI. Next, we will be talking about what is user experience design. So it's actually a very deep concept. when we talk about user experience design, anything that a user interacts with, let's say a computer or anything, it can actually be anything. So anything can be considered as user experience design. So whenever we interact with some device or some kind of a activity, all those things can be considered as we can design that experience for that user. So when we talk about user experience design with respect to our webinar right now, we are only talking about digital products. We can also talk about physical products, but that is a different story. So when we say user experience design, it's all about how easy it is for the user, how delightful it is for him to interact with, and how enhancing the experience is. There are a lot of factors that influence a user's experience, especially when we talk about BFSI. The stake of the users is very high. Even a small transaction that he makes or even a small activity that he performs may change his entire life if it goes wrong. So the users have to be very careful in order to make sure that the transaction is done perfectly. So even the organizations that are giving these platforms to the users should make sure that their experience is seamless, and they should not be in a position of confusion. And also their transactions are completed in a very clear and crystal clear manner. So that is why user experience design plays a huge role in BFSI. Not only today, it is from the day one, it is always there. But as the number of transactions online has increased dramatically, its importance also grew a lot in the recent times. So we will be diving deep into this now. The next one is, so what's the problem? So when we talk about BFSI, so what are the typical problems that we are facing, and how we are going to address? We'll go into that. So a recent study in 2021 has clearly shown that what are the different areas that impact positively or negatively the BFSI industry. So when we see the graph here, it's clearly digital app user experience has topped the list with 53% of impact. So it has positive impact. That means that any kind of mislead in that particular area will definitely push down the impact to negative also. So it has a serious amount of influence on the entire BFSI industry. When we see other things here, we have personalization, financial education, branch management. All these things are kind of related to user experience, but right now if you see the top one, it is mostly related to digital experience rather than any other kind of experience. So a personalization can be done physically, branch management is also a physical one. So all these are physical. So even though there are a lot of physical relations in how people are experiencing BFSI organizations and applications, the major impact is being created by digital applications that are being present in this industry. So that is the first survey. And when we see the next survey, we are also trying to understand what are the top priorities that this digital user experience can take up in impacting the BFSI industry in a positive way. So the first one is digital banking transformation, and it is a very high level one. If you see, when we say digital banking transformation, it can be anything. So if we make a transaction via a paper, so that can be digitized by making it possible with a mobile application. In the same way, there are a lot of different interactions that a person does with a BFSI organization. It can be applying for a loan. It can be purchasing a stock in the stock market, or it can be depositing some amount. So all these things are it can be performed manually, and traditionally we all have been doing that with a manual approach by paper or by any other means all these days. But very recently, if you see, the recent trend clearly shows that all these transactions and all these interactions have been converted into digital platforms. They have introduced a lot of mobile applications, a lot of new organizations have started up, and they have started presenting their services online rather than offline. So this has proved a lot useful for different scenarios, and it definitely will be useful for different more scenarios also in the coming years. So if you see different areas of the prioritization made by the BFSI organizations, we have the following list in the order wise. The first is definitely digital transformation. It's the end-to-end transformation of all the activities. So any activity that a user can perform with a particular BFSI organization can be digitized and it will be it will be impacting in a very positive way if everything is digitized in end-to-end manner. So right now, even if you see a lot of applications, they are not end-to-end. It's not seamlessly integrated. So one of the transaction needs to be performed online, and maybe some few other transactions needs to be performed offline because of some security reasons, or maybe any kind of technology perspective also, they have to condemn only to a physical perspective. So in order to go completely digital, they need to make some innovative changes, and also a lot of other factors should be incorporated in the BFSI industry. So that is the highest priority for now in any kind of BFSI organization. And we clearly see that they are very serious about it, and we see a lot of improvement in this area in digital transformation. One of the recent examples is UPI payments. So very recently it started, and it got a huge demand, and people are kind of using it everywhere. Every other organization have started using UPI payments. So that's a huge trend in the digital transformation. So that is the first one. When we talk about customer experience, this is more about the design and the flow of the applications, because when we see any BFSI organization, we don't have any limit to who uses that application. Anybody can use this application, because anybody can transact their financial assets or financial transactions. So the amount or the bandwidth of the type of users that uses these applications is very wide. So we cannot judge whether this application can be suitable for this audience or not. So in order to make sure that the particular application or a particular service is understood very easily by any kind of audience or any kind of a user, the customer experience is the utmost important factor. So when we say customer experience, it's majorly related to user experience, which is giving a beautiful flow that the user will not be confused with, making sure that our call to actions are clearly shown, the color combinations are not overwhelming, entire design is minimal. There are different basic user experience principles that we will take into consideration. That is the user experience part. Next part is cost management. So as we go digital, of course, definitely there is a huge cost reduction, because a lot of physical assets are being compromised or closed due to the advantage given by digital assets. So cost management is one of the priority that is also being solved by digital transformation. So as we discussed already, the paperwork that we do in the banking and other areas, definitely that will be reduced a lot if we are converting our transactions into digital arena. That is the cost management part. And risk management part. So until now, we have been, I think there is a lot of advancement in how people manage their risk. Initially, there is a lot of frauds related to checks, and there is a lot of frauds related to any transactions that happened with the banks. So definitely people have gone a long way, and they have introduced a lot of different measures to minimize these risks in the banking and financial transactions. But the recent trends in how BFSI industries have taken risk management is a huge development in the entire industry. So we are gaining a lot of traction in artificial intelligence and also blockchain technologies, and they are helping us a lot in understanding how we can manage risk in a better way. So all the traditional methods of risk management are now being managed and taken away by advanced technologies like again blockchain and artificial intelligence. So that also is a top priority for the 2021. Next one is driving growth. So again, the growth without technology is one thing, and a growth which has a technology involved is another thing completely, because technology has that potential to drive the growth in a another level. So it can take growth at a very high level and have a lot of potential in it. So driving growth in the sense including more and more transactions into technology, and making people use the technology more and more is one of the highest priority again. So when we take an example for this, let's say how many people purchase with a UPI on a mobile, and how many people purchase with a normal cash is a factor of growth. So if a banking transaction has to be if the banking institution wants the users to perform the transactions more and more in their own application, they definitely would want to make their applications better, so that their growth is driven by the application itself. So that is also a very important factor that is being considered. Then innovation, and this is again this is a never-ending priority in any decade. So innovation here is more about technology and making sure that the traditional methods of how BFSI industries operate are now going to be more into technology side, and how people are going to use them with respect to technology is the biggest factor that is influencing the innovation part. So again, how people use is dependent on how people have been using from different year, how many different many years from the past. So when we innovate something, it definitely there is a huge amount of inertia in the people to get accustomed to that new feature or new application, so that there is a lot of negative impact also if that goes wrong because of any security, if there is a transaction that goes wrong, or if there is any unknown error in the entire innovation that have made, that has been made. So all these things have to be considered, but still the companies are trying their best to get into innovative technologies to make sure that the lives of the users are in a better place. That's the innovation part. Next, operations excellence. So until now, we have only spoken about the user side of it, but there are a lot of other people who are working on the other side of it to make sure that all the users are getting their services in time. So even the people who are employed in BFSI organizations, they need to get a good user interface and user experience so that they can perform their activities very quickly, and they can reduce their errors as well, so that the entire process of BFSI industry will be seamless and more less error prone. So that is the operations excellence. The next one is cultural development. And this is also very important, because whatever we do in the above areas, people have to accept all these changes, or people have to trust in all these changes. So in order to bring that, there should be a cultural development in the entire population. So any kind of user should be able to freely communicate and interact with these applications, and should be able to trust on these applications to put his money on them. So that is the last one, cultural development. So these are high level priorities for 2021 with respect to user experience. And we'll go deep into it and see what exactly we can try to solve. So before that, we have one more slide, which is what's the stake. So what is going to be lost if you are not going to focus on user experience? So when there is no user experience, or when there is no importance given to user experience, definitely the result would be a poor usability. So let's say if as a user, if I don't know how to perform an action, or how to get into a particular page in that application, definitely there is a lot of frustration coming in, and there is a lot of confusion, and there is a lot of other feelings that come in middle, so that I will not be able to complete that interaction. And at the end of the day, as a user, I will not be satisfied with the company, and I'll have a bad understanding or emotion on that company. So whenever I remember that particular name or a brand, I'll get a very bad feeling, so that I will not even make a physical transaction as well. So there is a lot of impact that the user experience can create. If you see this simple equation, a poor usability will remove emotion, which is a positive thing to be added in a user's mind. So when the usability is very bad, the emotions in the users will be negative. So all the positive emotions towards the brand will be taken away. The next one is they'll have a lot of confusion and frustration when the usability is not good, so that users will not feel free, and users will not believe in the brand as well. Because if let's say for example, if I want to click a button, and if that button is doing something that I did not expect, so definitely I do not trust the entire application as well. Because what if I click on a button which asks me to pay the money, and what if it takes away all the money from my account? So these kind of confusions can arise, and people start losing their confidence in the brand. So the loyalty will be lost with a poor usability, and any kind of positive memory creation will also be lost in this poor usability stunt. Then the last part would be abandonment and no return, because people look at these things for a while, and for one or two transactions they'll try to do, and if they are not able to perform them successfully, they will abandon the app, because they would want to have a better thing, or if not, they'll just leave it. They'll go back to the physical way of doing the transactions. But if it continues to happen for a certain amount of time, there will definitely be a position of no return, like people will never return back to online transactions. So that is a worst possible scenario with a bad usability. So the return would be zero eventually. So that is why we would want to focus more on user experience, so that this can be reversed, and we can maximize our returns. That is a user experience equation. So when we see more closely on how user experience defines the user's journey on an application, we see this graph very helpful to understand it. So if we see the x-axis, we have a time of usage. It is nothing but how much time a user is spending on a particular platform. And on the y-axis, we have usability issues. So they are nothing but how many areas the user is being struck, or how many areas the user is getting confused. So the first one is the user starts here on the y-axis here, and he starts using the application. And if he's able to use it and understand it very easily, he'll be able to complete the entire tasks in a very short amount of time. And the time of usage, if you see, it is very less. So the user exits this transaction and he will happily leave with a satisfied feeling. But if there are a few inefficiency issues, like small issues, it's not like big issues, which can create inefficiency in the user. Like he might not be clear about how to go to a deposit page, or he might not know where to find a particular loan application. So these things will cause him confusion. So he might have to go for an expert, or he might have to search online to understand how that particular thing works. So that will take additional amount of time for him. But still, even after performing such queries outside, if he is able to complete it, okay, that's a good thing. At least there is some extra time, but still he completed it. So then we have some more time used here. But there are some other scenarios where even if we try to find it online, or even if we try to ask somebody, if those other sources are not able to clarify, there is a huge frustration again, that there is a lot of time the users have to spend on the platform to understand what it does. So that increases a lot of frustration again. So again, if you see here, the time of usage is increased much more. And the final part is the user will see, look at it, and play with it and try to understand what it is. He'll do a lot of things there. But even then, if he doesn't find it, if he's not able to do anything, as we discussed in the last equation, the user will abandon and not return anymore. So that is the final part, which is the failure line. So he will spend all this time in the application and still find nothing. And definitely, as we all know, we would never come back to that application, and our customer will be dead. As a loyal customer, he will never come back, and even he will not try to look back as the organization. So that is the one of the worst possible situation BFSI organization can expect. So we would really want to avoid this. This is the topmost priority in any BFSI organization going forward. So this has been a good trend, and people are recognizing that this is the utmost important factor that they have to consider going forward. The next one is what are the trends in 2021? So we spoke about high level figurative things, but we can go deep into how UX can actually impact in 2021, how organizations are approaching these trends. So we have come up with 6 very important trends that we see. So first one is speed and simplicity rule. So this is a very fundamental rule in any user experience practice. So we should make any application as speed as possible, as fast as possible, and as simple to use as possible. So that is a very important thing that BFSI organizations are taking into consideration. If you see many other online portals like Paytm or PhonePe, initially they used to have a lot of options in their applications and a lot of flows, but eventually they are looking to minimize their flows and give a very small and minimal interaction as quickly as possible, so that the user will complete the actions as quickly as possible. So this has been a topmost priority for almost all the BFSI organizations. Next one is channel uniformity. So when we see channel uniformity, it is about a lot of different channels that are coming into the industry. Like we got mobile phones, tablets, and we have smart watches as well. People would want to use them, and there are all small other small devices which are also coming in, which are enabling people to make financial transactions. So it can be a lot other products also coming in the future. So the channel uniformity is nothing but making sure that our platform is uniform in across all the other channels, so that users will not feel confused on how to perform their activity in the particular channel. So like that, it should also be delightful to interact. It should also be proactive with respect to how it involves us in the entire flow. Let's say how it gives us suggestions and feedback as an application, how it understands me as a user is very important as a trend here. And innovation as an enabler is also a very huge trend because with the technology coming into the play, a lot of innovations are being possible, and also looked after. Then there is also a cultural shift that is very important, because people should also accept all these changes. So these are the UX trends that we are looking. So now we will go and look deep into one after the other. The first one we also discussed quickly recently. This is the usability of loading and response speeds. So when we talk about usability, we have a lot of factors that discuss, but here we are only discussing about loading and response speeds of an application. So when we start an application, the amount of time that it takes to start, or the amount of time that it takes to respond for our actions. So that is very, very important, especially banking transactions, banking and financial transactions, because even 1 second is enough for a transaction to become fraudulent, or it can be hacked from some other place. So the users will be very keen on understanding what is going on. So the application should be very quick enough to give a response. If a transaction is failed, that should be shown very quickly. Or if a transaction is successful, it should be shown very quickly. It is not just about financial transactions. Any transaction or any activity, in that case, any interaction that the user performs in an application should be quickly responded with the proper messaging. So let's say if I clicked on a button, and if that button is not available for me as a user for any reason, it should be clearly intimated that it is not applicable for my account, so that the user will not be frustrated or he'll not be confused. So these kind of warnings or error messages should be very clearly given in any application. So that is one of the considerations in usability. And in that way, we have many other considerations with respect to loading and response speeds. So if we are able to consider all these areas, our platform will be very quick, and users will complete their actions very quickly without any confusion and frustration. So the faster and more reliable digital applications are what people are looking for the coming days. That will create a better experience and also make them feel confident. So that is the utmost priority to any organization going forward. That is the first UX trend. The next one is mobile first approach, and it is also a part of cross channel experience. As we discussed, there are many channels coming into play. People are using more and more devices, and they want to have a seamless experience across different platforms. Let's say as a user, I would be sitting at home using my laptop or a computer and making a transaction. And suddenly I would be going out and I'd be looking forward to see the same transaction in my mobile phone. Or even I might be going on a workout and I might also want to see if any transaction happened on my smartwatch. So all these things are growing eventually, and BFSI organizations are also looking forward to give a proper seamless experience across all these platforms. So even if I don't have a particular device, I should not miss out on an experience. So previously there used to be a scenario where certain features are only available in a desktop application, and on the mobile application, it is very basic features that are available. That is due to various security reasons and also various technological constraints. But right now, the major trend in UX is to avoid all those security constraints and also technology constraints, and make sure that every device will have seamless and consistent experience for the users. Also, it will impact a brand a lot. People will perceive this experience as a brand consistency, and that is why this cross-channel experience is very important. In the cross-channel experience, if we go little deeper, there are few areas that we have to consider very keenly. So we talk about constraints very keenly. Constraints are nothing but even in a particular device, device area. Let's say if it is a mobile phone, we have a lot of different sizes that people have. So since BFSI transactions are very delicate and very fragile, so we should make sure that none of the applications go wrong or go out of this frame. It will be very specific, this one, but yeah, it should not. The area that we are talking about here is none of the feature in the application should be confusing for the user. So if a particular phone is smaller than other phones, let's say there is a very important button that has to be given to the user, and just because of the phone is small, it should not go out of the frame, so that user will not be able to click that option at all. So those kind of constraints are very important to be considered. So screen size is something that people have to consider very importantly. Even organizations are doing a cross-platform UT, user testing, so that these kind of situations will be easily tackled. Then the speed, speed is also important. It depends on different devices. Certain devices will be able to catch faster speeds in internet and also application speeds. But certain applications might not be able to catch up with that speed. So as a BFSI application, we should be focusing on how our application is performing in the worst possible scenario. And we can also think about context and scattered attention. So when we see context, so it also depends on where the person is using this application, which scenario is he using, and in those scenarios, is this application making him do the activity quickly or not? So that is more about contextual research and a deep user experience design. So context can be discussed very deeply on its own. The next one is scattered attention. This is where UX will play a major role. So in desktop applications, we can give lot of features and lot of functionality in one single page, because the area of the screen is very huge. So comparatively, the user can segregate the screen into different areas and perform his actions independently. But when we see a mobile phone, the screen size is very small and the attention span of the user is very small. So user wants to go quickly from one place to another and he wants to perform a lot of different actions. So he should not be confused with different features in this application. So the major trend going on right now is one interaction per a page. So that is nothing but scattered attention. So we would scatter his attention into different modules. So if a person is looking to perform a deposit in a bank, he will only be looking into deposit screen. He will not be looking into any other screen, so that his attention will not be distracted with other features. So previously, if you see banking applications or any other applications in BFSI, there used to be a lot of advertisements and there used to be a lot of different buttons which are encouraging the user to click on them. That actually is a very huge distraction for the user. So going forward, all the applications are looking forward to reduce this attention scattering and actually scatter the attention intentionally, which means it is not unintentional scattering. Intentionally, the banking institutions are scattering the attention in such a way that the efficiency of the user is at maximum, so that the user can perform exactly what he wants to perform. So this is also a huge trend that is coming up in BFSI applications. So the next part is delightful to interact. So we might have a very good usable application, but if it is not looking good, we will not have that mood to use it in a very good way. I mean, for a pretty long time. So sometimes banking applications might take long times to perform a particular action. There will be huge forms to fill up and a lot of things to do in order to complete a particular transaction. So all this time, if the application is not looking good with respect to color or with respect to the look and feel, it might be very boring, or it can be very frustrating as well sometimes to perform those actions in a very boring design. So delightful to interact is a very important aspect of 2021, because BFSI industry is actually challenging the entire world, saying that we are not anywhere less when compared to any other organization. So previously, BFSI people used to feel that we are just corporate people and we should be more black and whitish, and we should use less color and we should be more corporate. So all these things were there. But going forward, very clear stand was taken by many organizations already with respect to how their applications are looking like. So they have started using more colorful themes and more graphical representation, so that users can understand their interface very easily and they can remember the brand also very easily. So that is why this is becoming a huge trend in UX 2021. So inside delightful interactions, there are two different areas. So we can also take it as user interface design, and the next one is user experience design. So the surface is what we see as a user. So when we open any application, whatever we see on upfront is the surface. So it's just the colors, the shapes, the graphics, all these things come under surface delight. But there is also a lot of things going on in the background. Something like when we click on a button, how quickly it is responding and where it is taking me. All these things are deep delights. So when we talk about surface delights, it is very local and contextual, which means it is only for that particular application and only for that particular page. So one page can be completely different from another page with respect to how it feels and looks. So that doesn't impact the entire experience of the platform. But when we see deep delight, it is more about how the entire application is flowing through between one page to another, and how fast the user is able to complete his actions. So it is achieved once all the user needs are met, because we in an application, a particular user can only do one or two transactions and leave. So that is just a very simple transaction or very simple interaction. But when we talk about a deep delight, the same application would be expected to perform huge amount of interaction and transactions in the same time with a seamless sorry with a seamless design flow also. So that is where deep delight plays a major role. So this is where it gives brand trust factor, brand reliability, and also recurring audience, recurring users. So all these things will be given by deep delight. So both are very important and are being very importantly taken by different organizations. Next one is use of AI. So we also spoke about proactive personalization. So it is nothing but how our technology is understanding about its user, and how it is suggesting its value to the user. So when we use an application, we have to make a lot of decisions. What kind of transaction should I make, and what is my usage, and what I need after this. So all lot of mental transactions are happening in our brain when we are using any application. So when it comes to AI has this beautiful ability to give us that intimation as to what we did and what we are doing and what we can do. So if you see here, AI can help us in analyzing our past performance, understanding our present, and also predicting what can happen in the future. So BFSI being a very important industry all over the world, this is very important in the BFSI applications. So this is keenly observed by different BFSI organizations as well, saying that how they can incorporate artificial intelligence in their own industry or in their own application. So banks have already started using AI in smaller ways, but in 2021, people are using this in a very huge way. Even stock markets are also using AI. Different stock market applications are started using AI to predict how stocks are going to behave. And when we say loan applications, they are also starting to use AI to understand whether this person will be able to pay a loan or not. So a lot of features are there, a lot of possibilities are there with respect to AI. So right now it's a very small part of the iceberg that we are looking at, and there is a huge potential in artificial intelligence, and what kind of impact that it can create in the banking and financial transactions or banking and financial industry. So this trend is only focusing on user side, and we can also think about it as how it can impact the organization as a whole, how it can help the BFSI organizations also, not only the user part. So when we see the user side, any particular user can also be allocated with the artificial intelligence, and so that he can be given lot of ideas as to how he can invest his money, or how he has already invested his money. So all these kind of possible solutions can be given to the user, so that it adds a lot of value to the users, so that they can make better decisions in life. So the AI is also a very good trend in BFSI. Next one is very interesting. This is more about how technology and economics are being, sorry for the mistake, it's easy. So how technology and economics are being taken up as the huge trend in 2021. This actually is not familiar in India, because in India it's not either legalized, or people are not really trusting this that much comparatively. But all over the world, if you see, there are lots of organizations that started using this technology and has made huge profits in financial industry. So when we see digital currency, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and also transparency, a huge amount of changes are occurring in financial industry. It's majorly because of blockchain technology. This entire thing is going to happen. So the technology is blockchain, but what is economics? This is very important to understand. So when we see cryptocurrency, this currency was never expected to happen in the previous years, but suddenly because of the availability of the technology, the experts are able to convert the economics of the currency into cryptocurrency. So they understood that a currency need not be physical and it can be digital. And they have introduced a lot of new technologies as to how we can interact with these currencies, how we can purchase this currency, how this currency would be growing in value, and how we can sell this currency. All these kind of factors are beautifully constructed with technology and economics. And recent trend in NFTs, which is non-fungible assets, non-fungible tokens, if we have an idea, that is also a very huge topic that has emerged in the recent years. That is also a fruit of technology and economics being mixed up. So all these trends are being hugely introduced in BFSI organizations, just because of the availability of new technology. And definitely there is a huge involvement of user experience also here, as to how people are going to perceive these trends and how they are going to use them in different areas of their lives. Because right now, if you see blockchain and cryptocurrency, this currency is being used only in certain areas of industries or certain transactions only. But going forward, there is a lot of hype in how we can make them useful in different other areas of our life as well, and how we can make these currencies be available to normal people also. So these are the trends in technological BFSI in the 2021, in the with respect to economics also. But that's a very huge factor that is playing a role in the technology here. Both are going line in line. So that is also something that we can look forward to. Then the last one, it is the cultural shift actually. So we have seen a lot of things in the previous slides. They are, if you see, we are kind of technical people who can understand what these things are and who can relate to them, because we are already started using most of them, and we can understand a lot of them. But when we see a population as a whole, there are a lot of people who don't understand any of these. There are a lot of people who can't even understand why we are having to do this. So they might not be convenient enough, or they might not be fluent enough to use these applications seamlessly. So making these people believe in this innovation is the very, very important thing. So that is only possible by making the entire user experience simpler and simpler and simpler, because we are here talking about a person who is highly technological and also another person who is completely illiterate. So both these people should be able to use the same application with the same fluency in the same amount of time. So when that is achieved, there is a huge possibility to cultural shift. Everybody will be completely fluent with the application, and they'll completely trust this entire trend of BFSI. So cultural shift has been a very important trend all over the time. It's not just now, but it has came through a lot of struggles. But I think it can go very long as well, because as we innovate new things, definitely a need for cultural shift is also very important. So this has been an evergreen trend in the user experience of BFSI. So that is the last one, which is very important. So these are all the trends that we have seen in the user experience design. And now we'll just see, once again, we'll summarize the trends quickly so that we can remember. So first one is the applications and all the transactions should be faster to respond, and they should be easy to use and easy to understand, and there should be personalization as to make sure that what is my role in this entire application. So that personalization is needed, and that will be enabled with the artificial intelligence applications. And cross-platform experience is also very much needed because of increasing number of devices that the users are using. Then AI-based assistance, this can be both for the user and also for the organizations. This is also very much in the trend. Then end-to-end digitization. So as we discussed, all the transactions needs to be digitized, not just a few transactions or not just a few interactions. So end-to-end flow on the BFSI industry has to be digitized. So that is the next biggest trend, and this is a very, very important one. Then advanced user flows is something that we discussed in cryptocurrency and blockchain technologies. So those advanced use flows are needed to be introduced into normal people's applications as well. So that is also a trend that we can think about. So these are the summary of the trends that we have discussed. So that's it for the presentation. Now we'll be looking forward for any questions. I'll put up this slide so that the summary will be there. Yeah.
Thank you, Partha. Thanks for your session. That was a very nice session. Right, like Partha mentioned, we will now take questions. Please leave your questions in the Q&A box. Partha, we already have a question. This is from Chetan. He asks, what is the best application to learn UX and which platform is good?
Cool. Okay. So learning UX is not has not been a very big it has not been in one place, especially in India, or if you see anywhere in the globe, there has not been one organization that is teaching user experience as a whole. Because when we talk about user experience, it's a very huge field. I mean, anything that a user interacts can come into user experience. So in order to learn user experience, I think I would suggest there is a good website which is called as interaction design.org, so which is giving a lot of good articles and good study material to understand what is user experience design. But I would say that is not 100%, but that is a very good start to start learning user experience design. It's called interactiondesign.org.
Great. Awesome. And which platform is good? So you answered both, right? Great. Chetan, I hope that answered your question. All right. So do we have any more questions? Anything we need clarity on? Okay. Okay. We got a response saying I got it. So I think Chetan got the answer to his question. And right. Partha, I think your session was very clear to everybody.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. So I don't think we have any more questions. Yep. All right, cool. All right, then. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I think we can end the session here.
Sure.
Thanks
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.